often people will have a memory of a leader that they worked for that saw something in them, that encouraged them, that said, I think you can do it, it's time, you're ready, or just made you feel good about yourself and brought out the good in you. To me, that is that nurturing part, that being compassionate is something that's really essential in leadership. Can you be a good leader without being compassionate? Yeah, you might be able to, or maybe you have people around you that fill in that gap.
The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. We have a wonderful guest for you today. She is a business coach, and I love having business coaches on my show because each one is unique with their experience and their insights to help businesses thrive in West Michigan. I want to welcome to the show Kristin Clark. She is a self-leadership coach, and she is going to share how she can help you thrive in your business. Welcome to the show, Kristin.
Thank you, Pamela.
All right, I am so excited to have you on my show because like I mentioned, that I love interviewing business coaches. I love talking to them at events because you guys always have different insights, where you came from, your past experience. I want you to share with us a little bit, who is Kristin Clark? And why did you get into business coaching?
Excellent. Well, thank you very much first for having me today. I really appreciate it. Like all of us, we all have a journey and a story. So mine started when I was born, of course, but yeah, in my 20s, I was working in a manufacturing company, and at that time, my dad was starting his journey as a leadership development coach. And he provided me with an opportunity to learn from him and to take one of the variations of the many that he developed over time of leadership development programs. So enthusiastically and sometimes reluctantly, I did agree to do all the different various versions of the leadership training that he offered. And then I was able to use all of that knowledge in practice on my employees that I was working with at the time. And so they got the free benefit of me learning how to be a coach, but I did it with the assessing, with the hiring, I did coaching and advising, and I did it with employees, and I did it with managers. So over my lifetime now, 25 years, I've been working as a leadership development coach, but now for the first time, I'm doing it where I'm transitioning to do that as my full-time employment.
Well, I know you do own Insight Coaching, and I wasn't sure when I did my intro if I mentioned that, but yes. I would like to just talk about when you did your dad's program, right? I mean, was that like a year? Was it 9 months? Because we all get into coaching, and I think what we stumble in is realizing it takes time.
Yeah.
And basically you're changing the person. Like people come to you and I've got problems, I got this, and you're looking at them and you're thinking, okay, what's in your mind? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's leading to this.
That's a really great point. I mean, I'll say back in the day when we first started doing the development coaching, we were using a program that took about 3 months. It was every week for 3 months. In today's standards, that's kind of intensive in terms of training, and people want to get things done more quickly. So we do have a shorter version, and it's evolved immensely since back then. Now our program, we teach the fundamentals in about 6 weeks. But realistically, 1 hour a week for 6 weeks is enough to teach you and coach you, but it's not enough to make sustainable long-term change. So that would take longer to stick with a coach and continue to practice these new ideas.
So is your main clients business owners? Can you share your ideal client with us so that, the West Michigan, if they were looking, seeing you, what are you looking to find?
Yeah, so I have some capacity. First, as an individual, I would love to work with companies that are, I would say, in the small range. So I would guess that range to be 150 employees to maybe 50 employees. And I'm happy to work with companies that are even smaller than that. And I have the ability to work with companies even larger by tapping into a team of coaches who are all trained in the same method that I am, which is called the Axiogenics method.
What is that?
Yeah, Axiogenics.
I was going to read it, and I thought I better ask.
No. Axiogenics is a leadership development company. That's my father's company, along with a couple partners, and I'm starting to work with them and their team also. So they have developed this system of helping people change their thinking, and we do it through a process we call, it's a long name, neurocognitive remodeling technology. We call it NCRT.
Wow.
But it's a way to help people change the way they think, and it's a pretty systematic approach. It's got 3 steps, but it takes some time to learn how to do that. So Axiogenics is the materials in the company. You can look it up, Axiogenics, online, and learn a little bit about the company, and there's all kinds of neat information on there. But that's what I use. It's called, the product is Valuegenic Self-Leadership Development, and it's a very structured program that we use. So where you often think about coaching is accountability coaching or business coaching, where you go in and look at the books or make suggestions about products and development. That's not what I do. What I do is I work with, first would be executive teams or the top leaders, and then potentially their managers that work with them, and then their employees potentially. So, but we want to look at, how do you think, and how is that thinking possibly getting in the way of where your company wants to go? And we have to start at the top.
Well, okay, yeah, leadership is so important. Everybody, like you said, we were talking before the show about, can you remember the good leaders you had?
Yeah.
And I don't really, I don't know why they stood out. And you kind of you said probably because they saw something in you. Everybody wants to work under a good leader.
Yeah.
Some people get nervous being the leader, right? Because that's really, all the eyes are on you, right?
Yeah.
How can you do that? But okay, so share a little bit about what would you consider in businesses today a good leader?
Yeah. It's hard to imagine a good leader not being able to connect with people. So that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. And what I would encourage anybody who's a leader to do is to think about and make a list, pencil and paper, of what kind of attributes or traits or characteristics made up the leader that you really loved working with. Often people will have a memory of a leader that they worked for that saw something in them, that encouraged them, that said, I think you can do it, it's time, you're ready, or just made you feel good about yourself and brought out the good in you. To me, that is that nurturing part, that being compassionate, is something that's really essential in leadership. Can you be a good leader without being compassionate? Yeah, you might be able to, or maybe you have people around you that fill in that gap. But I think that those are some of the key elements for a good leader, is that they can see their people, they can connect with their people. And when I make a list of the people that I've worked for that are really great, those are the kind of traits that rise to the top. But for some people, that's not a natural, they don't think it's a natural strength, or maybe they actually think it's a weakness that they have. And we can look at that in coaching and Axiogenics. We have a tool, we can measure it, and sometimes one of the greatest benefits of coaching is recognizing the things that you're really great at, the maybe natural talents that you have that you take for granted. So we can help people see not only the things that are tripping them up and that are getting in their way, but we can also help them see the great strengths they have and the things they bring to the table, because that's really the stuff that you want to focus on that will bring out the very best of you.
So, okay, so then let's example being, I'm going to go and call you up and say, look, I have this small company, I'm having problems with getting to that. I feel that because of my leadership team, they're not getting along, right? Yeah, and that's usually what it is. And it's usually 1 or 2 people, I will tell you, being in an organization that's causing strife.
Yeah.
And how do and I know that we need to go to the next level. I feel like everybody's talented enough, and I have everything on resumes, they're good. They just can't work together.
Right.
And where would you even start with that? Do you when you say you do the metrics, is that you interview each person individually? How does that all work?
Yeah. So one of the first things we would do is sit down with the top leader who sees this problem and we would talk to them about what we do. We would probably do an assessment with them, and we would explain to them how it all works and get them on board, because it's best to start with yourself when you understand the process. Then we would look at their whole team. But we would want to know from that leader, where do you want to go with your company? Where do you think you are now, and where do you want to go? And we just have a really good conversation about, yeah, where do you think you are and where do you want to go? And then we would look at the rest of the team. And maybe we would sit down and talk with the team about how do we get there as a company? And the way that we're thinking and the way that we're behaving right now, if we continue in this vein, we're probably not going to get there.
Right.
And if we want to do something different, we probably need to be different. And then we talk about, how do you help people be different?
Be different. Okay, so there's a lot of business coaches out there. Can you share a little bit? Yeah, I know you mentioned a few things, but anything that sets you apart from other, that you think, what, we're kind of unique.
Yeah.
And this field or this area that that most businesses need.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of how do you need to be to do something different is kind of a different approach. We first start with the idea of being valuegenic. So it's a term in our Axiogenics program.
Okay, it's called
being
Valuegenic.
Valuegenic. So it's creating value in everything you do. And we think, and we want to work with companies who want to create value in everything they do. So we teach people how to think about, what choice can I make and action can I take in this moment to create the greatest net value is kind of a mantra for creating value in your organization. If a company can get on board with a new mindset of creating value, then we can work together. So companies who are looking at my role as a company and company leader is more than just making widgets for the world to make a lot of money. If I really want to make a difference in the world, and even if you make widgets, you can still change the world by changing all the employees.
Correct.
And you can create a great environment where people love to come, enjoy their work, feel like they're making a contribution, are seen and heard and valued, and you do change the world even though you're making widgets. That's okay.
Right.
So we can help companies look at the way that we think right now. Is it going to get us where we're going, where we want to go? And what do we need to do or change if we don't think it's going to get us there? And then we get buy-in from people. And that's kind of the missing link from training and development, is that very often training and development teaches you something, it teaches you a skill, but if you don't get the buy-in from individuals in their heart that they really understand their role in getting there,
Right.
they just don't get there. They don't buy in, they don't contribute, they're not engaged. And I don't know if you know about employee engagement numbers, but they're abysmal. They're terrible. For, I don't know, several decades, the numbers
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, because of this missing piece, I really think.
Okay.
Right now, engagement numbers are at like 80% of people are not engaged in their jobs. So they're not giving all of themselves, and not to say you have to give all of yourselves all the time.
Right.
But there's a lot people are withholding when they're not feeling engaged and seen and valued and heard. They're going in, doing the minimal amount they have to.
Right, to get out the door. And I do
Yeah.
see that. I do see people, and I do see also people bringing their personal life to the workplace. And I in a way, you can care, but it's almost like is that a good, do you understand? I want to understand.
Yeah, that's
Let's just
interesting.
say, Julie just had a baby, right? You can imagine she's up at night and she's just returned to work, how difficult that is to leave her child
Right.
when they come back. But I still, as Pamela down the hall, need to get my stuff done.
Right.
Right? It's not like I don't care.
No, but there is an ebb and a flow to our lives and to our work, and there's no line in the sand where my home and my work, they do bleed over from one to the other. So as a team and as an organization, I know that my coworker just had a baby and she's probably not her best. Maybe I'm gonna pitch in and help a little more when we're all working for the same goal, to give her a little slack in this time of her life where she needs it. I think it's interesting. I think we blamed the millennials in the beginning when they wanted more from the world of work than they were getting. And there was a lot of resistance to that.
Right.
I think over the years, and we're used to millennials now, and millennials are in their 30s and 40s, And now we've had the pandemic, and the pandemic has helped people shift their thinking, but much more rapidly, that what we want from work, maybe us that are a little bit older than the millennials, we want what they want too. And what they're asking for isn't so crazy, to have more balance in our lives and not have work be the most important part. So why not give someone slack when they are having a baby? I mean, it's an important, monumental life change.
It is.
And work and life, work in our home lives, there needs to be a balance in order for us to be even able to contribute the way that we want to contribute in the world. So
it's not, well, when I say I don't care, I do understand.
Oh,
'cause
yeah,
I am
yeah.
a mother. Sometimes it's hard. You're like, okay, but you still have someone. You understand
Yes,
the answer?
yes.
And it's not like I don't want to help Julie, but I have a deadline and I have a personal life too. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I always think today it's almost that sometimes people expect their situation, their problem, or even their tragedy, whatever it is,
Yes.
trumps yours.
right, that's a good point.
And I don't, not that I don't care, but I'm like, why is it that we could sit together and have a pity party forever?
Yes, there has to be a balance somewhere in there. I have a client who really struggles with when something bad happens, they expect the world to accommodate them. And that's not realistic. But yet, death and birth, those are realistic things that happen. And yeah, we have to just learn how to balance on this tightrope of life and support each other and just try to be there for each other when those kinds of things happen. And I think part of the problem is, in our heads, and in our heads we have these expectations. That's one of the...
Isn't that the biggest disappointment with people? We have an expectation, like just to say I went on a diet. My expectation is because I watched the video, bought the equipment, you did everything, and in 6 weeks, you don't look like that person that was you know what I'm saying? And our expectations, so I don't know what my image was supposed to be. It was supposed to, I hear that all the time. It's like, wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that expectations, it's like an onion, and you peel off a couple layers of our expectations and you think you got it licked, and then there's another layer of another expectation we have under there. Yeah, those thoughts and ideas that we have about ourselves and about the world and about how other people should be, like at work, it's just layer upon layer upon layer of things we think and the way the world should be. And if you hear the word should come up, like I should look different already after 6 weeks of effort. Heck, for me, I go to the gym. I am very consistent for a couple days. I wish I looked different at that point. Yeah, but habits, they take a long time to change. And, it took a long time for me to get to be the way I am. And
I know,
yes,
I think that's where we are.
Yeah, small changes though, over time, they do start to snowball and they build upon each other, and they do over time create exponential change that sometimes when you look back, you can't even believe how different a person you've become, hopefully for the better, over time.
All right, before I want to move on to your book, I want to talk about, you mentioned the millennials, and now we have to deal with Gen Z. How do you coach or lead people that I want meaning in everything. I want a meaning in this. I want a meaning in this position. And this could be just a job where, okay, well, it's going to pay your bills. That has meaning. That has value. It's going to pay this. I mean, what is this? I used to interview young people when I had a position in a nonprofit. They go, well, I just want to work for a nonprofit because I want to have meaning in my life. Well, not everything you do, or even doing it over and over and over, that has meaning.
No. Yeah. I always think about Mike Rowe on the show Dirty Jobs.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of great living that can be made doing really dirty jobs, but it depends on how you think about it.
Right.
All of the way that we all have these different thinking patterns, 36 of them actually, that we can measure. And when your thinking is really out of balance, like I really want a lot of meaning, or my expectations are really high for the meaning that I get out of life, it just throws everything out of balance and nothing can ever measure up. So it's problematic. I mean, we can talk with individuals about how those expectations are getting in the way. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's what a young person needs, is a conversation that your job right now is to make money and pay your bills.
Right.
And that as you learn more over time, maybe the work that you're doing does become more meaningful. Or maybe you step back a little bit, and sometimes they need help adjusting their perspective, that the meaning isn't coming necessarily from the work. The meaning is coming from the fact that I'm accomplishing something else in my life. Like maybe right now this is the season where I'm going to college and I'm working a job that doesn't have a lot of meaning for me, but the meaning is in the other thing I'm doing, the college. Or maybe I'm raising a family and working one or sometimes two jobs. We just do what we have to do because our family is what is the most important thing. And you suck it up and you just do that kind of work.
Well, yeah, I used to work a job, and I wanted it for pay for my kids' piano. Wanted my children to go to sports camps in the summer, and so that was my role as part of the family. It's like, okay, I'm going to work this other job, and I mean part-time job, and that money is going to that.
Right.
Was it a real meaningful one? No, but I was happy when I saw my child take piano lessons and do his recital.
Right, so it provided meaning for you, but the work itself wasn't the part that was meaningful. It was the result that you got from it, or the value that your child got out of being able to go to such a cool event.
Right. Oh my goodness, we are just moving right along. All right, I want to share a little bit of your book. Can you share a little bit? You have a book out there, The Living a Richer Life. Can you just give us a little bit about that and why you wrote it and what you hope if somebody picked it off the shelf at Granville Library? I always say Granville because I raised my kids there. Or somebody handed it to them and said, this might be helpful.
Yeah, so I call it a little book. So it's a little book, it's about 100 pages, and it is what someone has called a blueprint for living. So Living a Richer Life, It's All in Your Head is the formal title. Living a Richer Life, It's All in Your Head, and you can find it on Amazon if you're interested in purchasing it. It's all about how do you create value, and there are 2 rules in life. Create value is the first rule, and then number 2 is to keep doing number 1, just repeat it. And continue trying to create value in everything you do as your highest purpose. So the book is full of examples of people who have made mistakes, including myself as an example in the book,
right.
About missing opportunities because I was focused on the wrong thing. So my thinking was out of balance, and getting your thinking in balance and paying attention to the right things in the moment really makes a difference. A friend told me a really poignant story about being with her mother when her mother was close to her death. And she uses this as an example with her friends. But she said, when I went to visit my mother, my instinct was to do things. I wanted to fix, I wanted to clean up her room, I wanted to straighten things. And she said, when I got there, everything in me told me, don't do that stuff, be right here, right now. Be with your mom, hold her hand, enjoy the moment, and all the rest will take care of itself. So that being in the moment, that what we call the intrinsic moment, part of connecting with another human being, is the number 1 most important thing. It's scientific and objectively can be measured.
Right.
And that's what we talk about in the book. So being in the moment is the most important, and everything else will take its turn and it will happen. So.
Well, we're very distracted today, you know that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And what part do you think, gratitude, because we're talking about the next generation or whatever, and when you do your coaching, just like, you're not going to get the job, that you were promised, and sometimes in college, right? Until you get some experience.
Right.
Be grateful for the people that have come before you that can give you some experience so you can take it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What part does that play, you think, in a lot of people's head, that they're so focused on all the things they don't have or we haven't achieved? We all go through that, right?
Yeah.
And to what, well, look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this.
So I don't think that the TV show Survivor is probably the best example for life, but there are many beautiful examples on that show of real humans. And one of the examples I loved from last season was a woman who she was probably going to be voted out next. She was a really strong competitor. She was a single mom. She worked really hard. And she said that being in an environment where she didn't have anything, she didn't have enough food, she didn't have shelter, she didn't have all the necessities that we normally have. But she said, yet I realized that my life was full. And she said, I spent a lot of my life trying to have things for my family, and I wanted my kids to be able to keep up with the other kids, and I've spent a lot of my time working to have things, and I realized we already have everything we need. And I just thought that was such a poignant, beautiful example of, Yeah, she realized and was grateful for the things that they had and realized that we need to spend more time thinking about that. So they say, the research is that if you write down 3 things every day you're grateful for, and you do that for a very short amount of time, a couple weeks, it starts to make a difference in how you think, and it starts to change your mindset.
Really?
Yes. So just a very little bit of gratitude and practicing and writing it down starts to shift your thinking. And all of these ideas about shifting our thinking to be more positive, to be more grateful, to be more compassionate, all of these, feel good kinds of things, intuitively to me, it's the right thing to do. It makes sense to be positive and have a good mental outlook or good outlook on life. But there is a ton of research out there now that this is healthier for you. You live longer.
Really?
If that isn't enough reason to start to want to do these things, there's a ton of research on it. It's good for our heart, it's good for our bodies, it's good for our mind, it's good for our mental health as well as our physical health. So,
well, you would know that as a business coach. I mean, when people go to work, even to be grateful, there's a building and everything's kind of set up for you for your office or your cubicle or whatever. But I always look around, and now that I'm older and wiser, and realize the gratitude. I'm always grateful when I walk by and there's a bathroom. And I'm like, okay, what would it be like if I lived if I had to go to the bathroom, as we all experience as humans? And it's like, and I couldn't find one.
yeah, no indoor plumbing.
No indoor plumbing as people went through.
Yeah.
All right, so as we wrap this up, what would you, and make sure I asked all these questions. So what benefit is Valuegenics, as you're looking out there as the audience, is, you could do for a business, and if they came to you and it's like, look, this is what, if they met you, this is what we can do for you.
Yeah. Getting people's thinking aligned so that they're making good decisions, because that's what we do. Creating value helps you have a more positive mindset, a more abundant mindset. It helps you have more clarity in your decision making, more confidence. Everything good comes from learning how to create value, and what we do with Valuegenic self-leadership teaches people how to be a self-leader, how to take responsibility for their own thinking. Because too many people think that they are their thoughts. They don't realize they are not their thoughts, that they're separate from their thoughts. And when we do, what we do is we help make the unconscious conscious. So the thinking that you're having, how is that connecting to how I'm behaving, how I'm thinking, and the results that I'm getting? We're responsible for all of those outcomes in our lives. And until we really understand that we are in control, we just think it's fate. This stuff just happens to me.
Right.
It doesn't just happen to you.
God's being mean to you. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, that is not true. We can actually manifest things, good things happening to us if we start to change how we think. And so that all sounds really soft and kind of woo-woo maybe to business leaders, but it does impact the bottom line, and it helps them when we're linking our thinking to our performance. Then we start to have greater results. And that comes out in better clarity and better decision making. People feel more confident. They have less fear, less doubt. If a company starts to change how they think about these kinds of things, and again, I just keep calling it creating greater value.
Right.
It's like a golden thread that you weave. Well, I'm going to start actually at the top, that you weave from the top down and then throughout the whole organization. That creating value as the foundation of everything you do starts to change the very fabric of your company and how it operates. And people start giving more because they want to, and it increases profits and profitability.
Well, I think too, and it may help with people in their personal life, because a lot of people
Absolutely
bring it to work and you're like, oh, drama. And it's fix this. It might be able to help them in the situation, so they'll be able to cope better with situations at home. All right, so how do they reach you? And Kristin, how can they reach you if they want more questions or want some coaching for their business?
Awesome. So my company is called Insight Coaching, but my address is yourinsightcoach.com. So YOUR insightcoach.com. You can also find me on YouTube, and it's under the name Living a Richer Life. So that's my channel name, Living a Richer Life.
All right. I want to thank Kristin Clark for being here from
Thank
Insight
you.
Coaching. This is Pamela Kine from Grand Tap Media. We will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.